infamous for failures that they've experienced at the biggest stage. Who was the saddest story of this book? Who did your heart really break for?
Well, I think the big thing for me was I almost looked at it as a psychological experiment, because I wanted to find out how losing affected these people, their families, them as individuals. Being known for having lost a Super Bowl, a World Series, and not just losing it, but being an instrumental part of losing that. Because I think there's lessons for all of us that we can gather out, how to bounce back from adversity, how do you keep, because the sun keeps going up every single morning, no matter what. You got to keep going.
These losses stay with people for
they
a long
do,
time.
and you asked which was the saddest, and I don't know if I'd use the word sad, but the one that affected me maybe the most was Calvin Schiraldi. And it's the first chapter of the book, the 1986 Boston Red Sox. Everybody looks at it, and they talk about the ball going through Bill Buckner's legs. Well, if you really go back and you look at it, Game 6, which that happened against the Mets, Boston had a one-run lead in the 8th inning. Schiraldi blew that lead as a reliever. He stayed in the game in the 10th inning, had a 2-run lead, gave up 3 consecutive hits, got 2 outs first, then gave up 3 consecutive hits, blowing that lead. Then the ball went through Buckner's leg. They come back, pitch Game 7. He comes out of the bullpen in the 7th inning, 3-3 tie. First batter, Ray Knight, he gives up a home run, loses that game. So he lost games 6 and 7. And he said that next year was so difficult for him. He only pitched in the majors 4 more years, retired at the age of 29. But he had to put up walls to defend himself because of the way the fans treated him and media, etc. But those walls carried over into his personal life. And he wasn't really involved with his family. Finally, in 2013, almost 30 years later, his wife said to him, look, unless you go to therapy, we're getting a divorce because you're not the man that I met that played in the minors or when you first came up. You're not the same person, and you haven't been for the last 3 decades. And he has been, and he's been working on his marriage, and he was very honest in the book about how it's not only affected him but his family. But I think that to me is one you look at and you're like, wow, it was just a baseball game or two. But for the rest of his life, it not only bothered him, it affected his marriage.